The neighborhood had always been calm, manicured, and orderly. Lawns matched perfectly, mailboxes were identical, and HOA regulations were enforced with near religious fervor. But beneath the calm exterior, entitlement festered. Karen, the self-appointed guardian of property standards, had a reputation that made neighbors wary. Her constant oversight left everyone anxious, except for me. I lived carefully, followed the law, and let my K9 companion roam the edges of my property with a sense of freedom few would dare. It was during one routine morning patrol that my K9 alerted me to an unusual scent near the property line. He moved deliberately, nose to the ground, muscles tense with focus. There was something unfamiliar, something hidden, something that did not belong. I followed his lead, curiosity piqued but cautious. The sense of alertness in my dog told me that this was no ordinary scent. Karen had always acted as if she had complete oversight of the area, but this time she had left a trace, one that even she might not have noticed. My K9's instinct was precise, unerring. The smell led toward a section of overgrown brush near the corner of her property, a space that appeared abandoned, forgotten, or simply overlooked. As my K9 approached the brush, his movements grew more deliberate. His tail stiffened, his ears pricked, and his posture indicated an imminent discovery. I followed quietly, observing the precision of his detection. What he sniffed out was beyond what I could have expected, a hidden shed, obscured from plain sight by trees and debris, tucked just behind the line of Karen's property. The shed itself was unremarkable to an uninformed eye. Weathered wood, peeling paint, and a sagging roof suggested abandonment. But my K9's insistence revealed otherwise. Something within it carried the unmistakable scent of human interaction, materials moved, items handled, and a lingering odor of concealment. Every step toward the shed was accompanied by the dog's heightened alertness, signaling a significant discovery. This shed had been invisible to the neighborhood for years, known only to Karen and anyone she trusted to carry out her clandestine activities. It was a secret storage, a hidden vault of property removed from others without their knowledge. The K9's reaction was precise. This was more than just hidden items, it was evidence. Karen, in her obsession with neighborhood control, had crossed the line into theft. Her entitlement had escalated from enforcing HOA rules to collecting what was not hers. Packages, tools, and even small personal items belonging to neighbors had been secreted away, hidden in a place no one suspected. And yet, the shed remained undiscovered, until now. My K9 circled the shed, sniffing around the perimeter, his body tense. He pawed at a loose plank in the wall, indicating a potential entry. I knelt, inspecting the structure cautiously. The smell inside was unmistakable, metallic, organic, and layered with dust that indicated repeated use. Items had been stored, removed, and returned. This was deliberate, organized, and illegal. Karen's confidence in her secret operation had been absolute. She had acted with impunity for months, if not years, believing that her status within the HOA insulated her from discovery. She did not anticipate a K9 trained for detection, nor did she foresee that routine observation combined with instinct would reveal her hidden hoard. The shed loomed before us, a small wooden structure hiding years of stolen property. My K9's insistence on inspecting every corner revealed meticulous concealment. Boxes stacked neatly, some labeled, some plain, each containing items clearly taken without permission. There were electronics, tools, and even packages that had never reached their intended recipients. Each discovery confirmed the extent of Karen's audacity and deception. I documented the scene carefully, knowing that proof would be essential. The smell, the arrangement, and the presence of recently handled items left no doubt. These were not abandoned or forgotten belongings, they were deliberately acquired. The K9's attention never wavered, signaling that we had found the core of Karen's illicit collection. The scale of her actions became apparent. This was not a casual or small violation. This shed represented months, perhaps years, of misappropriated property. Each piece told a story of entitlement taken too far, a pattern of behavior that had remained hidden until now. Karen's assumption that her HOA status protected her from discovery had been fatally flawed. With the shed identified, the next challenge was approaching the situation with care. Karen's reputation for aggression and overreaction meant that any direct confrontation could escalate quickly. I kept the K9 at my side, using his instincts as guidance while maintaining a safe distance. Observing the shed structure, I noted weak points, areas where items might be easily retrieved, and sections that could be tampered with without alerting neighbors prematurely. The dog's reaction remained consistent, alert, focused, and aware of human interference. Every sniff, every pawing motion confirmed the presence of items not belonging to her. I realized that law enforcement would eventually need to be involved. This was beyond neighborhood drama, it was criminal activity. Evidence needed to be gathered without destroying its value. Karen had assumed that secrecy was her shield. Her hubris had blinded her to the possibility that someone would notice patterns she believed were invisible. Every misstep, every clandestine action, had left traces. The K9 found them all with unerring precision. After careful observation, it became clear that intervention needed to be both legal and undeniable. I documented each box, item, and location, photographing evidence while the K9 circled and alerted. His training ensured that nothing went unnoticed. Packages that had gone missing weeks prior were identified, along with items whose owners could be traced easily. Karen's shed was a vault of impropriety, her overreach finally exposed. Her assumed immunity evaporated under the weight of evidence. The realization that her actions could no longer remain hidden was approaching the moment she least expected. My K9's role in revealing the truth was undeniable, instinct and training had unveiled what years of surveillance and suspicion could not confirm. Her confidence in controlling narrative and space had blinded her to the simplest law: hidden items, when discovered, demanded accountability. Karen had no idea her hidden shed had been compromised. From the safety of her home, she imagined all property unseen, all packages undiscovered. Her sense of control was absolute. But my K9 had other plans. Each sniff, each pawing, each alert led closer to the truth. He was methodical, precise, and relentless. By mid-morning, the evidence was undeniable. Boxes revealed items from multiple households, some neighbors' deliveries that had gone missing, tools reported stolen, and even items that could easily be traced back to specific individuals. Karen's long-term plan for secrecy crumbled quietly in the presence of observation and canine instinct. She had relied on the assumption that visibility granted immunity. She was wrong. The realization of exposure was only a few steps away. Each alert from the K9 signaled what could no longer be denied. The shed, once a fortress of entitlement, was now vulnerable to inspection, documentation, and eventual law enforcement involvement. Karen's illusion of privacy had been pierced, and nothing she imagined could restore it. I carefully approached the shed, documenting everything without disturbing the items inside. My K9 continued his alert behavior, ensuring that no detail went unnoticed. The arrangement of boxes, labeling, and even the dust patterns revealed frequent use and deliberate concealment. Karen's actions were methodical, calculated, and systematic. Every step toward the shed emphasized her overconfidence. She had believed that hiding property on HOA-adjacent land would protect her. She had assumed that enforcement of rules alone gave her immunity from accountability. But here, in the quiet observation of my property, those assumptions failed spectacularly. The K9's training had uncovered a pattern of criminal activity she never anticipated being discovered. This was not just neighborhood drama anymore, this was a criminal matter. Every box, every item, and every trace of handling had been revealed without confrontation or destruction. Evidence had been obtained naturally, with the dog acting as a precise detective. With undeniable evidence in hand, the next step was alerting authorities. I contacted local law enforcement to report the discovery. The K9's alerts provided both credibility and a path for legal inspection. Each item was traceable, each box accounted for. Karen's claim of innocence would hold no weight against documented facts and trained canine detection. When officers arrived, they were methodical. They reviewed photographs, followed the K-9's alerts, and inspected the shed. The scale of Karen's unauthorized collection stunned them. What she thought was minor mischief had become a significant theft investigation. The property recovered spanned multiple households, with clear documentation of ownership and evidence of concealment. Karen's imagined immunity evaporated as officers took notes and photographs. The law did not operate on assumptions or entitlement. Her actions, once hidden and unquestioned, were now subject to scrutiny and potential criminal charges. Karen was summoned to speak with authorities. Her prior confidence faltered when faced with the K-9's detection, photographs, and property documentation. The officers explained the severity of her actions and the implications of continued concealment. Trespassing had escalated to theft, and the sheer volume of stolen property left no ambiguity. Neighbors, previously wary of confrontation, now witnessed the unraveling of her authority. The story of hidden packages, stolen tools, and misappropriated items spread quietly but efficiently. Karen, once feared for her HOA enforcement, now faced scrutiny and accountability she had long avoided. My K-9 remained vigilant, each alert reinforcing the evidence. His instinct had not only uncovered the shed but had also ensured the law could act with certainty. The contrast between entitlement and reality had never been clearer. Karen returned to her home, unaware that law enforcement had already been notified and the investigation was underway. Her confidence had begun to waver, but she refused to consider the possibility that her hidden shed had been discovered. She busied herself with HOA duties, hoping distraction would preserve her sense of control. Meanwhile, neighbors quietly shared knowledge of missing property and unaccounted packages. The realization spread that Karen's actions were not minor infractions, they were deliberate theft. Each neighbor who had suffered losses now had reason to support legal intervention. Karen's previous reputation for intimidation began to crumble under quiet scrutiny. The K-9's role was pivotal. His alerts had revealed patterns and locations that human observation alone could not identify. Every trace of Karen's secret activities had been uncovered through instinct, training, and careful observation, leaving no room for her to argue ignorance. Officers conducted a thorough investigation, guided by the K-9's precise alerts. Each box inside the shed was catalogued, contents verified, and ownership established. Items that had been reported missing were recovered, photographs taken, and documentation prepared for potential prosecution. Karen's assumptions about secrecy, entitlement, and immunity were systematically dismantled. The scope of her misconduct astonished the authorities. What she had imagined as minor misappropriations now appeared as a deliberate pattern of theft across multiple households. The K-9 had not only located the shed but had also ensured the legality of the discovery, making evidence admissible. Karen's self-image as an enforcer of HOA rules had collided with reality. Authority required legitimacy. Entitlement alone could not protect her actions from exposure and accountability. News of the discovery spread subtly but rapidly throughout the neighborhood. Residents who had once deferred to Karen's authority began questioning past interactions and enforcement actions. Her perceived power, built on intimidation and the selective application of HOA rules, began to erode. Neighbors now understood the difference between compliance enforced through fear and true accountability grounded in law. Karen's attempts to control perception had failed. Her secret shed and the items within it were undeniable proof of misconduct, and no amount of rationalization could change that. The K-9, still vigilant, had become the symbol of truth. His instincts had uncovered hidden property, ensuring that justice could be pursued fairly, calmly, and efficiently. Karen faced the reality that her actions carried legal consequences. Her standing within the HOA was undermined, and her credibility shattered. Any attempt to regain authority would require transparency, accountability, and restitution, concepts that had previously been foreign to her. The community adjusted accordingly. Boundaries, oversight, and trust were reevaluated. The lesson was clear: entitlement could not replace legal ownership or ethical behavior. The K9 had done more than sniff out hidden property, he had highlighted the contrast between assumption and responsibility, forcing the HOA and its residents to confront the consequences of unchecked authority. In the aftermath, the shed was emptied, and stolen items were returned to their rightful owners. Karen faced potential charges, and her reputation suffered irreparable damage. The HOA, once a source of fear, began to operate with more caution, acknowledging the limitations of individual authority. The K9, calm and composed, had fulfilled his duty. His precision and instincts had uncovered not only stolen property but also the broader lesson: visibility does not equal authority, and entitlement without accountability leads to exposure. The neighborhood, once intimidated, now understood the importance of law, boundaries, and ethical behavior. Karen's meltdown was a cautionary tale, a vivid example of what happens when imagined power confronts reality. The ranch, the shed, and the K9 remained as enduring symbols of truth, patience, and justice.